power, greed, and pride. That's why we're here. The defendant, Randy Larkin, shot and killed a man over power, greed, and pride. And the evidence that we present to you in this case will show you that that is true. The man that he shot and killed was named Morey Pelton. Morey Pelton was 36 years old, lived in Ririe with his dad. The shooting happened 2.5 years ago, May of 2022. It was at 9:45 at night. Happened at a rest area on your way from here to Swan Valley, if you know where Swan Valley is. About 2/3 of the way from here to Swan Valley, on the left-hand side of the road, there's an isolated rest area. That's where Morey died. At the time of the shooting, the defendant, Randy Larkin, had 3 of his buddies with him, 3 friends. And I'll tell you more about them in a few minutes. So again, why did he shoot him? Power, greed, and pride. A few weeks before the shooting, the defendant, Randy Larkin, had given some money to the victim. And as the days and the weeks went on, the victim, Morey, was not giving the money back. Randy Larkin was starting to become uneasy. You'll see in text messages and hear from witnesses, he wanted to know where that money was or what was going on. And he becomes more and more impatient. And he's talking to people. He wants to talk to Morey. He wants to know where Morey is. And in fact, he says things like, he has no idea what I'm capable of. He has no idea what I'm capable of, and he repeats that. So what happened on the night of the shooting? Here's what happened. That brings us to the first friend that was with him at the shooting. The first friend's name is Kelly Hinks. Kelly Hinks, the night of the shooting, a couple hours before the shooting, Kelly Hinks is from Swan Valley. Kelly Hinks sends text messages to Morey, and he wants to meet up with Morey to buy some drugs from Morey. You'll see these text messages. Morey agrees. Kelly Hinks suggests that they meet at the rest area that night. Morey agrees. Well, the defendant, Randy Larkin, also decides to meet Morey at the rest area that night. But Randy Larkin does not go with Kelly Hinks. You'll see from testimony and the evidence that Randy Larkin rides with someone else. He doesn't drive himself. He rides with another friend. That other friend is named, just to remind you, Kelly Hinks arranged the meeting with Morey. Who did Randy Larkin ride with? He rode with another friend named Gerald Hamlin. Gerald Hamlin was from out of town. Gerald Hamlin is from the state of Washington. Gerald Hamlin was on his way to Arizona from Washington. He stopped in Swan Valley to see Randy Larkin just for a day or so. Randy Larkin goes to Gerald Hamlin and asks him for a ride to the rest area. Gerald Hamlin agrees. So Gerald Hamlin in his SUV with Washington state license plates is the driver from Washington state. Before they go, they pick up the third friend, a guy named Billy, nicknamed Buckskin Burton. And you'll hear from both Gerald Hamlin and from Buckskin. I'll just refer to him as Buckskin from now on. You'll hear from both of them. Buckskin gets in the SUV, he sits in the back. So now we have, sits in the back of the Washington SUV. So now we have Gerald Hamlin driving the SUV, the defendant, Randy Larkin, sitting in the front passenger seat, and Buckskin sitting in the back, heading towards the rest area. Okay. Kelly Hinks comes later. Remember, Kelly Hinks is the one who arranged the meeting to begin with. On the drive to the rest area, there's some conversation. You'll hear the evidence of what they said. And what was said was, Randy Larkin is saying something to the effect of, and pardon the language you may hear, he says something to the effect of, Randy Larkin is going to beat Morey's ass. He's going to beat Morey's ass. So they drive to the rest area, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you this diagram we have here, and this is the rest area. So I want to make sure everyone can see it, and if you can't, let us know. Okay. So this is a big blown up shot of the rest area. I'll just try and explain, get you oriented. So this is north up here, south down here, east over here, and this highway is towards Swan Valley on this side. The highway going this, as it goes this way, it's going towards Ririe and Idaho Falls. Okay. So as you can see in this blown up photo, we've got two entrances to the rest area. One right there. Another one right there. Okay? So two entrances. You've got, now of course you're just looking straight down, you've got buildings here, restrooms, that sort of thing at the rest area. Okay? These long painted lines here are kind of like for trucks, semi-trucks, that sort of thing. These smaller ones would be for cars. You see that in the parking lot. And then we have this area right here, which is very important. This area right here is it's down a hill, and so we'll refer to it as the lower parking lot, or the lower part of the rest area. So you go down a hill, and down here there's also some parking. Okay? This right here is where the shooting happened. Okay? So they're driving to the rest area. You'll see security camera footage of the cars coming and going. So what I'm about to describe now, you'll see in the security camera footage as well. Okay? So Gerald Hamlin driving the Washington SUV, Randy Larkin sitting in the passenger seat, Buckskin in the back. They actually go past the rest area, and then they return this direction. By now it's about 9:15 at night. So they come in, they pull in right here, and then they drive down to the lower area. This is before Kelly Hinks has arrived. They drive down to the lower area, stay there about 5 minutes, drive back up, exit the rest area right here, and drive down the highway, towards Swan Valley. 5 minutes later, they return. Okay? So 5 minutes later, they return, come driving back, re-enter the rest area, and this time they go and park right here by the restrooms. Once they parked, you'll see the video of this, Randy Larkin gets out of the vehicle, out of the front passenger seat, walks towards the restrooms, a couple minutes later, walks back, gets back in the car. Okay? And they are parked right there. A few minutes later, Kelly Hinks, who originally arranged the meeting, comes driving up. Kelly Hinks drives, he skips the first entrance, you'll see. He goes to the second entrance and comes in. And then he drives all the way through the rest area, through the parking lot, through here, passes their car parked right there, passes Randy Larkin, drives all the way down to this lower area, and in the lower area, he parks. The way that he parks, you'll hear from the testimony, is he parks with he backs into the parking spot so that the front of the car is facing out, so he can drive out without backing up. Okay? So he parks facing out. Almost immediately after he goes down here, a minute or so later, Gerald Hamlin in the Washington SUV with Randy Larkin and Buckskin drive down, spend about 1 minute there, and come back. And then once again, park by the restrooms. Okay? So you have Kelly Hinks parked facing out right here. You have Randy Larkin sitting in the passenger seat, parked right there. About 5 minutes later, Morey, the victim, comes driving up. He comes driving from this direction, from the Ririe direction. He drives over, pulls into the rest area. You would assume he probably saw this car here, doesn't stop, comes down this direction, and he goes around and he parks next to Kelly Hinks. The way he parks is he parks face in. So he pulls his vehicle in, facing towards the sidewalk. Kelly Hinks is faced out, and their driver doors are kind of together in a way that they could talk if they wanted to. Okay? almost, right as soon as Morey pulls in, and he's driving a car, a 4-door car, he drives in. About a minute later, Gerald Hamlin in his SUV with Randy Larkin as a passenger backs up and follows Morey down. Okay. What happened next, we have to rely on the testimony of the people that we have. Gerald Hamlin and Buckskin. Kelly Hinks died earlier this year. He's deceased, so we will not hear from him. He did give some testimony in court before he died of some of his story. You may hear that read to you, but the witnesses that you'll hear from this week is Buckskin and Gerald Hamlin. So what happened? What happened in the lower part of the rest area? Okay, again, Kelly Hinks is deceased. We're going to hear from Buckskin. We're going to hear from Gerald Hamlin. Here's what happened. Once Randy Larkin's vehicle, driven by, well, I should say Gerald Hamlin's vehicle with Randy sitting in the passenger seat, once they drive down there, they do a U-turn and park kind of in the middle of the parking lot, some distance from the other two cars where Kelly Hinks and Morey are. Immediately, Randy Larkin opens the door, walks out, and walks over to where Kelly Hinks and Morey are parked. Okay? And we have Buckskin and Gerald Hamlin can tell us what they heard. They heard talking, and then they started hearing arguing between Randy Larkin and Morey. The voices get raised, and they will tell us what they heard. They heard Morey's words. Of course, they're still sitting in the car, but they heard Morey's words, and here's what Morey said. Pardon the language, this is what they heard. "Fuck you, Randy. What are you going to do? Shoot me?" That's what Morey said. "Fuck you, Randy. What are you going to do? Shoot me?" A gunshot rings out. Randy Larkin has fatally shot Morey. And then Morey says, "Aw, fuck, Randy." As soon as that happens, Randy Larkin walks back to the SUV, gets in the seat, and he tells the driver, Gerald Hamlin, drive. Gerald Hamlin does drive. They exit the rest area, go out through here, come out through the exit there, and head towards Swan Valley. Kelly Hinks is hot on their heels. He drives right out, and he leaves as well. Morey Pelton dies in that parking lot. You will hear evidence that everything I've talked to you about so far is what happened. Now, as they're driving away, Randy Larkin says some things to his driver, Gerald Hamlin, and to Buckskin in the back. He warns them to keep quiet about what just happened. In particular, he says, "Snitches they find in ditches. Snitches they find in ditches." They make their way back to Swan Valley, drop Randy Larkin and Buckskin off at Randy Larkin's house. Gerald Hamlin heads on to Arizona, and that's basically the end of the story. The next morning, somebody finds you'll hear from the person who found the body, who's driving to work. He sees somebody down there, thinks there might be a problem, calls 911. The police come and start their investigations. Now, the police don't know anything about what I just told you. All they know is they've got a body in the rest area. So they start their investigations. They put the puzzle together. They take a look at phone records, interviews. There's forensic analysis that occurs. And as they're talking to people, and as they're looking at cell phone records and other things, certain names keep coming up over and over again. Kelly Hinks, Buckskin, Gerald Hamlin, and especially the defendant, Randy Larkin. I think it's going to be worthwhile to give you a quick timeline of exactly when the cars came and went from the rest area, so I'll just give that to you real quick. So 9:18 p.m., Randy Larkin enters for the first time, drives to the lower lot, stays in the lower lot 5-6 minutes, comes back out and exits entirely. 5 minutes later, returns to the rest area, parks by the restrooms, gets out, near the restroom. A couple minutes later, gets back in the car. A few minutes later, 5-6 minutes later, Kelly Hinks drives up, parks in the lower lot. Randy Larkin follows Kelly Hinks into the lower lot. Keep in mind, Gerald Hamlin's driving, but Randy's in the passenger seat. Follows into the lower lot, about 1 minute. 1 minute later, he returns to the restroom area and parks. And you'll see all of these timestamps on the video camera, the security camera, and everything. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. Okay, so 9:44, Morey Pelton pulls into the rest area. 9:44 p.m. Heads on down. Randy Larkin begins driving to the lower lot. 2 or 3 minutes later, Randy Larkin exits the rest area, followed closely by Kelly Hinks. And so between 9:45 and 9:48 is when the shooting happened. We have groups of witnesses that we're going to present to you, and I'm just going to kind of give you the groups that you'll hear from today and as the next few days go on. So we have the first responders. This is Judd Tolman. He's the guy driving to work. He looks down and he sees, someone laying there, drives down, calls 911. You'll hear the 911 call. We have the very first officer on the scene. You'll hear from him today. Then Deputy Ryan Harris. Next, we have police that arrive at the crime scene. They do various different jobs. We've got a Detective Kidwell, Detective Noah, Joshua Fielding, Detective Zeb Graham. Each one of them has their expertise and their specializations, their jobs. And there may be other officers that you hear from, but you'll hear from these. You're going to hear from Morey's friends. They're the ones who are going to tell you about how before the shooting, in the weeks before, Randy Larkin is asking about Morey, wondering about the money. He has no idea what I can do, or he has no idea what I'm capable of. Okay, some of his friends will include these: Britta Jackson, Keegan Mann, Kristen Davis. There may be others. Chris Hansen. Then, of course, we've got Randy Larkin's friends. You already know these names. Kelly Hinks, who's now deceased. Buckskin Burton, riding in the back. Gerald Hamlin, the driver. You're also going to hear from Randy Larkin's daughter. Her name is Chelsea. So what happened? About 3 weeks after the shooting, Randy Larkin attempts suicide. He's near Pocatello. He ends up in a Pocatello hospital. He survives. He wakes up. His daughter is beside him, Chelsea. He starts talking about the shooting, and Chelsea will tell you what she heard, what he told her. We've got some scientists you're going to hear from, some forensics people, Carissa Rose, Wyatt Berry, Eric Seat, Brittany Wiley, Scott Donaldson, some or all of them. You'll hear from them about ballistics and blood analysis and things like that. We have an autopsy doctor, Dr. Christina Di Loretto. So what she'll testify to a few things, but in particular, what she'll testify to is the position of Morey's, body at the very time of the shooting. So what she'll testify to is that he appeared to be looking over his left shoulder like this, okay? And she'll show you that the path of the bullet grazed his chin, went into his neck, appears to have grazed sort of the folds of his neck, goes in his neck, and comes out in the lower part of his right shoulder blade. In other words, the bullet appears to have traveled in a downward path, chin, neck, coming out here. And last of all, the last witness that we will have, a man named Matthew Nodell. Now, he's an expert in what's called blood spatter. So blood spatter in firearms. He's a guy who can come up to the scene of something like this and he can analyze the patterns of the blood, and it's kind of gruesome, but where the blood sprayed to and where it touched and what it looks like, and give you an idea of some of the things about the case, where the body was positioned, how the bullet went, other things like that. He will testify that at the time of the shooting, Morey Pelton, Morey, the victim, was seated in his car. He was seated in the driver's seat of his car, based on the blood stains, based on the patterns of where it fell. Okay? And so that is, those are the things that you're going to hear. Our hope as the state, as the prosecutors, our hope is that by the time you've heard all of this evidence, you will agree that power, greed, and pride caused Randy Larkin to shoot and kill Morey. Our hope is that you will find him guilty of murder. Thank you.
This case is all about 3 minutes. Now, you've been shown the scene where Randy Larkin shot the drug dealer, Morey Pelton, and it all happened in the course of a 3-minute period. And I'll show you. Now, you probably use that microphone if I leave this. That's okay. I can just do it this way. You see the little roundabout, the teardrop shape down the lower area of the Lane Clark rest area, over to the right picture. What happened in this case? Basically, the car that Gerald Hamlin was driving left the upper area and went down to the lower area. And then about 3 minutes later, it's actually like 2 minutes and 46 seconds, I think, it's seen coming back. There are security cameras in the upper area, and so we know exactly how long it took. And that's significant. The reason it's significant is because this was not an execution. This was not Randy Larkin going down, stopping and shooting somebody. He was going down to have a talk with Morey Pelton, who did owe him money. And I'll tell you a few things about this. Let me set the scene a little bit. Morey Pelton died between 10 p.m. and 9:48 p.m. May 12th of 2022 after being shot by a single bullet. Sunset that night was at 8:54 p.m. So the shooting took place about 1 hour after the sun had set. Persons present at the time, you've been told: William Burton, known as Billy Buckskin, Randy Larkin, Gerald Hamlin, and Kelly Hinks. Immediately before Morey Pelton's death, he was engaged in the act of something he was very familiar with, and that's selling methamphetamine. He was selling methamphetamine to Kelly Hinks. He and Kelly had arranged for a purchase to where Morey was going to provide Kelly Hinks with methamphetamine, and Kelly was going to buy it from him. Now, after his death, Morey Pelton had an autopsy performed, and that will be entered into evidence in this case. On the first page of the autopsy, one of the first things they did was a drug screen. And what you'll see is that there was a very high level of methamphetamine in Morey Pelton's blood at the time he was shot. The expert will tell you, and our expert, Dr. Dodson, Robin Dodson, will tell you that the level of methamphetamine in Morey Pelton's blood was 12.7 times the toxicity level. That's a level so high that the average person would be more than would be required to kill him. But in somebody who was a user, a regular user like Morey Pelton, it would have, it didn't kill him, but it did make him, it did change his behavior. And Dr. Dodson will describe how methamphetamine, that level of methamphetamine will change somebody's behavior and how they would react to things. So that's the importance of the autopsy. I'll talk about the fact that the autopsy also shows that Morey Pelton, the shot that killed him, he was turning left at the time, and I'll discuss that in a moment too. He wasn't shot, from something like shooting down at him. I'll tell you exactly what happened. Kelly Hinks' grand jury testimony will be read to you, and he had some very important things to say about what he saw when he was there to buy drugs for Morey Pelton. He'll testify, what he testified in front of the grand jury was that He was present buying methamphetamine from Morey Pelton. Morey owed Randy Larkin some money, that's true. And he had stopped taking Randy's calls when Randy kept asking him when he was going to pay him back. Now I will tell you that Randy Larkin is somebody that does on occasion use methamphetamine. On this occasion, actually before this, Morey Pelton had approached Randy and asked him if he could borrow $4,000. And Randy allowed him to borrow $4,000. And Randy did know that he's expected him that he's going to buy methamphetamine because that's just something that Morey Pelton does. So that was in the background. Now that evening, the evening of May 12th, 2022, Kelly saw Randy Larkin at the Covered Wagon Bar in Swan Valley. And Kelly Hinks told Randy Larkin that he was going to meet Morey that evening at a dollar store. Now this is a time after Randy and Morey had been exchanging text messages back for weeks. And Randy kept saying, well, when are you going to pay me back? You're supposed to pay me back last week, and oh, something happened, and I'll get together with you, in a week or two. So a week or two goes by, and he says, oh gosh, Western Union screwed up. Didn't you get it? Well, no. Well, gosh, Western Union screwed up. And then another time it was an excuse like, oh gosh, well, somebody took my money, and it'll take me a while to get them back. So anyway, Randy's tired of just emailing back and forth, and he wants to talk to him in person. So this particular night, he sees Kelly Hinks at the Covered Wagon Bar. Now Randy had been going to go to Idaho Falls that evening with Billy Buckskin and Gerald Hamlin. They were going to go to it's a bar in town called Muddy's in Idaho Falls. And when he saw Kelly Hinks, and Kelly told him that Kelly was going to be meeting with Morey Pelton, he said, well, when are you going to meet him? Because I need to talk to him. And he said, well, I'm going to meet him at the dollar store. And then he says, okay, well, I'll meet you over there because I need to talk to him. And then Kelly calls him later and says, no, Morey wants to meet me over at the rest area, that Lane Clark rest area. So he says, okay, I'll meet you over there. So that's what this is all about cars going back and forth, over at the rest area. He did get a ride. They took a detour. Instead of going straight to Idaho Falls, they stopped at the rest area, which is on the way, and waited for Kelly Hinks and Morey Pelton to arrive. Now the state is going to try to say that what happened next was murder. And that is a choice that you're going to have to make as members of the jury. And I'll tell you, there wasn't murder, it was self-defense, and I'll tell you why. That when Kelly Hinks and Randy Pelton are down at the rest area, as our prosecutor, Steve Hamlin, showed you, the two cars were not parked both the same way. They were parked with Kelly Hinks backing into the parking lot and Morey Pelton driving in straight. And the reason they do that and the reason they were doing it down at the lower level of the rest area is because Morey liked to do his drug deals.
Objection, Your Honor. There is no good faith basis that there will be any evidence coming in that speculation is being argued.
Friday court, we'll just caution you to make sure that whatever you're saying is going to be admissible evidence, or like I said, we'll have to deal with those issues.
Sure. They could do a drug deal down there. Well, as a matter of fact, that I believe Kelly Hinks' testimony was that the reason they went down to the lower level is there aren't any security cameras down there. It's darker down there. That's why they went down there. And the reason they were parking this way and this way is so they could exchange drugs and money out the windows without getting out of the cars. The cars were very close together, so they could do that. They just roll their windows down. We're talking. And while they're doing that, Gerald Hamlin drives his car down, and he stops behind the Pelton vehicle, about 30 feet behind. And when he stops, Randy gets out. and walks up between the two cars. Not a lot of room between the two cars. In fact, Randy says that when he was talking with Morey through the open window, that his butt was up against the Hanks vehicle because they were so close together. Randy had a gun with him that night. Randy was a little concerned that meeting with the drug dealer here might be dangerous to him, particularly asking, when are you going to pay me my money that I loaned you? And so he did have a gun with him. He had a gun that was tucked to his belt, and he goes up to the window, the open car, and Morey says, looks at him and says, "Hey, did you get my emails?" And the emails were talking about, for the last month or so about, well, I did, this happened and that happened and that happened, and that's why I haven't paid you yet. And there's a lot of vulgarity that passes between the two of them. Randy looked down at Morey, and he could tell that he was high. He knew what a guy high on methamphetamine looked like. Randy had not had any methamphetamine, he had not been drinking, but he went and he was talking pretty upset with Morey. And I'm just going to give you an idea of what was said. Randy puts his palm on the window, the open window of Morey's car, and he wanted to make sure the door was shut. And so he kept his palm on the windows there as they talked, and about emails and text messages. And when he does that, he can see that Morey is high, and Morey can see his shirt comes open like this, and he can see the gun in his belt there. And so Morey says, "Oh, so you brought a gun, huh?" And then Kelly yells out, hey, Kelly was behind him. Kelly can't see exactly what's going on because Morey is on one side, Randy Larkin is between them, Kelly is in his car, Randy is right immediately between them. And so Kelly Hinks yells out, "Hey, put that thing up before somebody gets hurt. Quit effing around." At that point, Randy shows Kelly he can't turn all the way around because of the close quarters there. And he turns around like this to show Kelly that I'm not pointing a gun at him. I have a gun, but I'm not pointing anything at anybody. And Randy says, "Yeah, Morey." And then he'll tell you what he said after that as to why he brought a gun for his own safety. He told him. And Morey replied, "F you." And Randy replied, "Well, F you. When are you going to pay me back the money you owe me?" Morey replied, "When I pay you, I pay you." And Randy said back to him, "Why did I ever think it was different from anyone else that you've ever known and effed?" Morey looks at Randy and says, "F you." Randy says, "No, F off." And he gave Morey a one finger salute with his right hand. And then he looks at Morey and he says, "What you're doing right here, that's exactly why Amber dumped you, blank, 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 blank." He starts swearing at him like that. He's mad at him because, the guy's basically saying, "I'm not going to pay you." So at that point, Randy pushes off and he starts to walk away. And Morey said, "I ain't even scared of you, old man." And with that, when he did that, Randy could hear a smash behind him. And he looked behind him, he swung around like this, and he could see Morey Pelton had opened the door. He can't open it all the way because the cars are too close. He opened it as far as he could. And he saw Morey Pelton getting out of the car to confront him face to face. So if you can picture what we've got here. Morey's been sitting in his car. He slams the door open. He's got one foot out. He's getting up like this, and he's looking right at Randy. And Randy shoots him, and the bullet hits him right at the jaw because he's looking over at him. Kim Duddy, our blood spatter expert, will confirm that is exactly what happened. So he gets out. He's getting up out of his car. In the process of doing that, he gets shot, stands up, turns around, and falls down dead. There's a lot of questions of the people there. Why didn't you call 911? Well, the reason they didn't call 911 is because they didn't expect anybody from the police department was going to listen to self-defense. They didn't think that at all. Now, when Randy shot Morey, as he saw him getting up and getting around, swinging his hand out, he believed that Morey had a gun in his hand. He saw what he thought was a black shiny object. As he swung around like that, he saw this guy's hand swinging around, and Morey's right-handed. As he swung around, Randy thought it's either him or me at that point, so he shot. And when he shot, it shocked him. He wasn't there expecting to shoot anybody. He was shocked. Kelly Hinks was shot, or was shocked. Hamlin was shocked. Buckskin Billy was shocked. He just stood there. He saw him. First, he thought that he'd missed, and then he saw Pelton fall on his face, immobile, and everybody was sure that pretty much died instantly. And Randy just said, "Just get out of here. Just get out of here." And he panicked. He went back to the car. He got into Hamlin's car, and he said, "Just get out of here. Just go back home." And there were, again, the plans immediately changed. They weren't going to go. There was nothing to celebrate at that point. Having Gerald Hamlin back in town, for Buckskin who lived in the area, and Randy and Buckskin and Gerald were, going to be kind of celebrating a reunion and heading out to the bar. By the way, Buckskin at that time will tell you that he had, before they left, he had 10 shots of tequila in him. So Buckskin was pretty drunk, the whole time. But Randy just said, "Just get out of here, just go home." He didn't make any threats. There wasn't any snitches, wind up in ditches. What you will find out, though, is that Buckskin and Hamlin had threats made to them. You'll hear that from them. That some people interviewing them wanted to hear them say certain things, and if they didn't hear what they wanted to hear, they said, "We don't believe you. You're wasting my time. I don't believe you." And so they kept banging the table, and basically these guys felt very threatened. And Buckskin didn't say that there was any threats, made to him. Hamlin, came up with his snitches lined up in ditches. And so, but he said that at a time when they'd actually filed first-degree murder charges against Hamlin. That was a threat they made against him. They filed first-degree murder charges against the guy that was just giving Randy a ride. And so, after he said that, then they dropped the first-degree murder charges. Now, just a short time after arriving back in Swan Valley, Randy saw Kelly Hinks last time, and he said, he told him, he said, "Kelly, I really thought he was going to shoot me. I thought he had a gun." And it wasn't like any kind of like planned alibi or anything like that. It was just that he told him, just blurted out, he says, "I thought he had a gun. That's why I shot him." And they didn't see each other after that. Now, a couple of things that I think are significant. The state wants to say this, though, about greed. Randy knew where Morey Pelton kept his money. He kept it to a sunglass case, his car. And after the shot rang out, again, shooting because he thought he was about to get shot, he didn't rifle through Morey's belongings. He didn't go into the car and give his money. He didn't get Morey's drugs that he knew that he put in this little container by the driver's side door. He didn't do any of that. He just left. The whole thing was shocking to him. Again, because he wasn't expecting to have to do that. A very significant witness in this case, again, is going to be Kim Duddy. She works for a very reputable blood spatter expert, brain pool, if you want to call them that, a company called Bevel Gardner Associates. She's out of Southern California. Let's see, I believe she's out of, is it Washington? No. Actually, I'm confusing my experts here. I think she's actually out of Washington. And she is an expert in blood spatter analysis. And the state had some people trying to do reconstruction of what happened, and they came up with a lot of different theories. And from the beginning, the state didn't, and the evidence is going to show, they weren't just looking to see, well, what happened here. They were trying to make it look like an execution. There were even sight lines drawn from the driver's window down to a hole in the passenger seat, where they were looking for a bullet. They thought, we have evidence that we shot this guy right through the window, and the bullet wound up in the seat. Well, it turned out to be a cigarette burn. It wasn't anything like that. They did analysis of Morey Pelton's shirt that he was wearing. And the reason they did analysis of a shirt, it was actually for gunshot residue they were looking for. So if you got somebody that was executed, like, shot at close range, they're going to have gunshot residue. Just like somebody shooting, they get it on their hand. If you're within several feet, the person, that gunshot residue is going to be there. So they took Morey Pelton's shirt, they did a forensic analysis of the shirt that he was wearing at the time of his death, no gunshot residue. So it wasn't close quarters. Another thing that they had to deal with a problem in trying to make this out to be an execution is that Kelly Hanks, in his testimony, places places Randy Larkin behind Morey's car that he had already walked several feet away. He was walking away when this happened. He didn't go up to the window and shoot him. He was walking away, and that he places him between the back of the Pelton vehicle and where the Hamlin vehicle was at the time of the shooting. And that's actually confirmed by a shell casing that was found in that area. The shell casing for the gun that was used to shoot the bullet, and that was found, back, several feet away from actually a couple of feet away from the back of the Pelton vehicle. So there wasn't anybody right up, at the window. And so we're going to talk a lot in this case about what was found and what wasn't found. What you'll see in this case, and I'll tell you up front, constant efforts from the prosecution try to make this out to be an execution, and one lead after another that they follow, they'll come up flat. It's not confirmed. They look for residue in the center console. It's not there. Look for residue on Pelton's shirt. It's not there. They look for a lot of different things. That hole was a cigarette burn. The blood spatter actually is consistent instead with him being between the door and and just whatever you call the opening of the door and the door itself. That's where it was. There was blood actually outside the window and over the side, indicating that he was in a partially standing up position. So what is consistent is that he was actually in the process of getting out, turning like this when he was shot, looking right at Randy when he was shot. And the expert that was hired by the state, actually we had our expert give an opinion first. Kim Duddy did her blood spatter analysis, and we provided that to the state. It wasn't until about 8 months later that they had this fellow Nodal that looked at her analysis and disagreed with it. We also had our expert, Dr. Robin Dodson, do his own opinion of what the methamphetamine levels in Morey Pelton's blood would have done to him, and how he could expect to have responded to somebody. And several months later, we get a report from one of the people that's actually working for the sheriff's office that says he disagrees. That he wouldn't have any reason to believe that there was any problem with someone that had 12.7 times a toxic level of methamphetamine in their system, during an argument. So we have a disagreement there. And I submit that the state's version of what happened will not make sense. And the only thing that makes sense is that Morey was getting out of his car. He was confronting Randy. Randy reasonably believed that he had a gun in his hand, that he was going to attack him. And Randy shot him in self-defense. So with that, we'll proceed with the evidence. I thank you for your attention. We won't be putting on our case until next week, although we may take one witness out of order, and that would be Dr. Robin Dodson, because he's a pretty busy fellow, and he's only available to testify on Monday. So if the state isn't done with this case by next Monday, he'll testify sometime on Monday. Anyway, that's what we have. This entire case, regardless of what the prosecution says, is all about focusing on what happened in the 2 minutes that the parties were down at the rest stop. Thank you very much.